Hey guys, what's up? This is Casey. This is Q&A portion after we spend about 15 minutes on our topic. So if you guys want to get your questions answered, send them to our comments here on the YouTube stream, or you can send them to us on Twitter or something like that. And we're on every single other social site that you can imagine, and we are shot science on those. Tough because you're not really in control of what's happening in terms of being able to avail them of the basketball. So right. What are some things that people need to consider when it comes to dealing with somebody that is not sharing the basketball?
Well, the tough thing about it is that when you're playing on a basketball team that has a coach and all of that, usually those coaches take care of that situation if they think that's going on. One thing that happens is that sometimes players perceive that that's happening, but in fact, that's what the coach wants to happen. And so you kind of have to see through that and find out, is that really what the intention is or not? And the thing that's really important is that we take
I think that you have to consider the fact that you're not in control of that other person. So you need to just take it on yourself to know that you have to make it undeniable that you deserve the basketball.
Right.
And to do that, you have to be able to move without the basketball, set up your teammates, do the little things that make it so obvious that you need the ball that if the guy isn't giving you the ball, he's going to look foolish, and the coach is going to see it, the people on the court are going to see it, the crowd is going to see it. That's what really is how you make your case.
That's really the case, yes.
If you are just sitting there and complaining and moaning and being just obnoxious, that's a great way to just totally get denied in terms of getting the basketball, right?
And sometimes I feel that players oftentimes get themselves into this situation, and really it's not. Let's see, how can I put this? You may think this is going on, and maybe it's not. Maybe this is by design, and this is something I think is real important to understand, is that coaches sometimes have a particular system that they want to be run, and maybe you're not really a very good shooter, and so you don't get those looks that you think you ought to get. And that's just part of the game. You probably, if you're on the floor, you're bringing something to the team, but it may not be shooting. And if that's the case, then you need to live with that. Maybe you're a really good defender, maybe you're a great rebounder. All those things is what makes a team go. And so don't necessarily think that the ball is going to always be shared equally, because it's not going to be shared equally. The players who are the ones who are going to be, have the capability of scoring, are the ones who are going to get more looks than you do if you're not very strong with that. And so you have to understand that. Now, what do you do about it? Well, you work on getting better at shooting the basketball, and whenever you get better shooting or scoring, then you're going to find out that you get more touches. But the most important thing is to remember, if you're playing on an organized team, the coach is pretty much in control of what's going to happen there. And I wouldn't waste my time crying or whining to the coach about the fact that you never get any chances to shoot. Because number one, he didn't want to hear that. And number two, it's not going to make that happen if you don't have that ability. That's the key.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that you don't want to make it an issue about you. You want to make it an issue that's clearly about that person that is not sharing the ball.
Right.
And that's actually really easy to do, because one person cannot run the show. They will eventually double team that guy, or they will, shut down anything that he's trying to do, or he'll find himself in a situation where he can't get out of the whatever's happening in terms of the defense shutting him down. And you have to do the little things. And a lot of people, this is like a mentality switch that you kind of have to have just in general, is that you have to go out there and actually do things.
Yeah.
Just because you don't have the basketball in your hands doesn't mean that you have a free pass to stand there.
Yeah.
It's not 1 against 5. It is always going to be 5 against 5. And, you can do some things that set yourself up and set your teammates up very simply just by moving without the basketball.
Right.
And what all those things are if you've been playing basketball for more than 10 minutes. And, that's doing stuff like L cuts and V cuts and backdoor cuts, which you can see on our channel in videos, and we explain it. Right. You can do things like set on-ball screens and off-ball screens. You can flash. You can, go into the post. You can, do a slip screen or something like that. I mean, there's so many things that you can do.
Right.
And if you are doing all those things and you're moving and creating opportunities, those opportunities are going to start outweighing the opportunities that ball handler has.
Well, yeah. And I think going back to what you mentioned a while ago was the fact that opposing coaches are not dumb. They usually can see what's going on. And if that person is really hurting them by shooting and whatnot, then they'll take and probably put a situation where they're going to take and double team him. Like Casey said, they're not going to let him catch the ball as easily maybe as he might otherwise. And so they're going to take and kind of force the ball out of his hands and into other players' hands as well.
Yeah, and so like we said, you have to make your case.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit there and complain and whine, that's not how to make your case for yourself. Yeah. That's a good way to make your case for you to be off the floor.
Yeah.
Because coaches don't want to hear that. Coaches are they're the ones that are kind of trying to be the ringleaders, and they're looking at things kind of on a grander scale than probably you are, and they're going to start to realize if players are not getting the ball when they're in open opportunities, they're going to be upset about that.
Oh, yes.
If there's a guy standing under the basket wide open, or let's say you go set a back cut and that guy cuts down to the basket and he's standing there wide open waving his hands, and that guy up top is just doing his thing as a ball hog, that's going to register with the coach. And he's going to address that at some point. It might not happen the first time, might not happen the second time, might not happen the fifth time, but eventually somebody's going to say, hey, why don't you get the ball to that guy? Because he's wide open.
Yeah.
And, if you and your teammates are doing those things, it's so easy to kind of negate a ball hog if you're able to do those things.
Yeah.
Right?
Very true. Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah.
So what's the worst thing that you can do if there's a ball hog on your team?
Well, probably the worst thing is whine about it.
Yeah.
And make noise and complain and
pout.
Those are things that kind of take you out of the basketball game.
Yeah, I was going to say, and let it affect you and your play.
Well, it affects you and affects your play, and it affects your team when you begin to pout and feel like you're ticked off because you're not getting enough touches. Like I said, this all goes back to who is very capable on the basketball team to score. And if the other guy is very capable to score and you're moderately so, then they're going to get more looks than you. And so that's just the life on the basketball floor. There's just no question about that. But pouting, feeling sorry for yourself and all that, there's no time for that as a basketball player. No time. So the thing to do is to get after it and do all the things that you can do to make your team successful. I think one of the points that Casey made just a moment ago, I think was really a key too. What you do without the basketball. Too often I see this. In fact, we had a practice the other day, and I had to mention this 2 or 3 times, is the fact that a player passes the ball to one of his teammates, and then he just sits there and waits for the ball to come back to him. Well, the thing that happens with that is the fact that your defender, while you're standing there waiting for the ball to come back, is now able to take and create a situation where they can go 2-on-1 with the other player because you're standing there. What you have to do is you have to move to make that defender move, and that makes the whole offense a little bit more flexible when you don't stand there and wait. And what do? Well, you could down screen, you could you could take and screen away, you could cut to the far corner, and coaches usually have a program for that in their play in their play action so that you know where to go. But just stand there and wait. Worst thing in the world in basketball, far as I'm concerned.
And you can see that on even all the way to the top NBA ranked level, is the teams that kind of have the isolation thing down. I mean, that's you can live by that and die by that.
Yes, you sure can.
But if you watch a team like Golden State, or you watch a team like the San Antonio Spurs,
right,
those are teams that they are constantly moving and creating space for each other and opportunities for each other. And if there's a ball hog in that system, they would find themselves out in the first couple minutes.
Very true. In fact, it's been proven the last few years with San Antonio and San Francisco,
Golden State,
that that kind of basketball is much more successful. You involve more people. You create more problems for the defense when you play like that. When it's an isolation situation where you've got one player who's trying to do his thing and get to the basket. Then there are other defenders there just waiting for you so they can take and knock the ball against the wall.
Yeah, and like we said, you have to make your case every time when it comes to if you're dealing with a ball hog person. And if that's something that's affecting you, you can't let it get to you personally.
Yeah.
You have to do something about it. And the best way is to learn how to actually play basketball and do the things that you should be doing anyways.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself in a system where it's not something where you have to even go up to that guy and say, "Hey, pass me the ball."
Yeah.
Make your case, and it will clearly, or it will quickly clear itself up.
Yeah. Probably one of the things that makes teams successful are the teams that play with individuals who can move without the basketball. You stop and think about this in the whole scheme of the game, that probably when you look at how much time you might have the ball as a basketball team during a whole game, you might have the basketball in your hands maybe 2 to 3 minutes total for the whole game. And so it's more, and you're playing 32 minutes in high school basketball. And so what do you do in all that time when you don't have the basketball in your hand? That's what really is key. And that's the point that Casey's making here regarding the Spurs and the Warriors, is the fact that they are very active and they are doing an awful lot without the basketball.
Yeah.
And it's creating shots for other people as a result of that.
Yeah, and Anthony's down here in the chat saying something about demand the ball. That is true. You do demand the ball, but you have to do the work and be kind of have earned the right to demand the ball too.
Well, that's true.
You don't get to just stand out there on the perimeter or in the post and wave your hands at people.
Yeah.
Unless you're completely wide open. But usually you're going to have to do some kind of cut or set a screen or do something that is going to create that space. And then if you're wide open, yeah, sure, you can yell ball or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's not something where you can just stand there.
No.
I mean, because if your opportunity doesn't look as good as that guy's opportunity, I mean, you haven't really made your case.
Exactly.
So are we good on that? Or?
We're good on that, I think.
Okay, so that's going to do it for the ball hog topic for today, you guys. If you want us to talk about that some more, just let us know in the comments, and we'll try to get up, come back to that and answer some more of those questions. But right now, hopefully you guys have been sending us your comments and questions into the chat or sending them to us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science on Twitter. But we're going to get into the Q&A. So send us your questions. Go tell your friends and family to watch if they're into basketball, and that really helps us out. Okay, so let's get into this right now. This one is from Robert Stark, who says, how to make yourself more noticeable to scouts as a power forward. Okay, we do this every week, but let's talk about positions and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably the thing that's most important is that if you are thinking that you are a power forward, maybe you're not seen that way by one of these scouts that you're talking about. What they're looking for are guys who can play basketball. And if you happen to meet the qualifications for what they're looking for, then maybe they will lend you an extra eye. And what are they looking for? Well, maybe you're 6'2", and they're looking for a swingman who is 6'8", and so you don't fit that profile. And so it's going to be hard for you to really fit. But maybe you can shoot the basketball lights out, and maybe they find, hey, here's a guy that we could maybe play at the 2-3 position, and he can light it up. He would really be an addition to our basketball team if we were to have him there, because he can play basketball. He can shoot, he can defend at the perimeter and all of that. And so by locking yourself into this power forward location, you may take and really
pigeonhole yourself.
Well, yeah, you pigeonhole yourself in a situation. They're not looking for that when you don't meet their profile. Now, here's the other thing. When you're talking about scouts, I'm thinking you're probably thinking that you're maybe scouts maybe on the collegiate level or maybe a professional level. But the thing is that it's important that you be a basketball player first, and then you're a position player after you are selected to come and play on one of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that we try to emphasize with people is that you have to be a versatile, all-around player.
Yeah.
If you are a very specialized, specific player, I mean, good luck trying to make any collegiate team. Yeah. You look at all these guys that are playing Division I basketball. It doesn't matter if they're a post player or point guard or anything, they can do pretty much every single thing.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you need to be that person anyways, and that's only going to help you, because if you're a smaller perimeter player and you're able to go into the post, that's going to make you much more valuable than if you were just a guy that can't do that.
Yep.
And the same thing is true as a post player. If you're able to stretch out the floor and go have a mid-range game, maybe even a deeper than mid-range, you're going to be in much better shape than the guy that can only do post moves, and it is parked there in the key. Yeah. So the best thing you can do is not focus on a position, because you don't get to decide that anyway. That's going to be your coach's decision.
Yeah, that's really true.
And like you were saying, you can get kind of stuck in a line behind dudes if that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing too, is that scouts probably are not going to be at your high school game.
Now,
that doesn't really happen anymore.
Yeah, unless you are really already out there and people know about you, they're not going to see them at your basketball games anyway. The whole creation of AAU and travel basketball, maybe over the last 30 years, has kind of changed the landscape of scouting and recruiting and that kind of thing. I can remember many years ago, when I was coaching high school basketball as the head coach, we would have contact from college coaches, and they would be interested in players you have. But now that is kind of fallen into a situation now where travel basketball has kind of taken over that whole situation, and high school basketball coaches don't really get that much contact from scouts. They get most of that contact is going through these club coaches and whatnot.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to be very smart about that kind of stuff too. You can't just join some team and think it's going to happen. One of the things that we try to tell people is that you have to do your research. You have to make sure and vet the coach and the team and make sure that it's about you guys and skill development, not just playing games. And typically the good ones will put you in front of the people that you need to be seen by.
Yeah.
You are probably not going to be doing too much of that, especially not playing a high school team. You can actively send your video and stuff like that to coaches.
Yeah, you can do that.
Whether they see it or whether they care to contact you is 100% up to them.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's all about volume and kind of sticking with that. But that's really kind of how you get in front of scouts these days. And typically if you're a good enough player, they probably will know about you already.
Yeah, they will.
Okay, this one is from Jawad Yazdani, who says, how long should I train for every day? That's hard for anybody to give you a specific number. You have to train for what is optimal for your development. And, one of the things you want to do is make sure that it's varied, but you want to touch on every single aspect of your game every day. And you want to make sure that you are consistent. You are doing it in a way that is disciplined and also, you're doing it with purpose. But that's impossible for us to tell you because you're going to have other priorities in your life as well.
Right.
So you need to be conscious of overtraining and doing things that are going to hurt your body. Mental fatigue is one of those things. If you're starting to get to a point where you're not mentally into it, then it's probably not a good idea to continue that, or maybe at least change it up. And you need to make sure that you're taking care of the important things in life, like school and your health and having a social life and stuff like that too. So
that is all true. And the thing that I would also advise is that you can overtrain too easily. And one of the things in training is that you are maybe progressing on your training, and when you get to a certain point where you're overtraining, then that whole learning process levels off and you begin to be learning going on because of fatigue, lack of interest, a lot of different kinds of things.
All right, here's one from Catherine McDonald who says, how to make sure you never miss easy layups. We have a video on this, but probably the number one reason that people miss layups is because they try to go over the front rim or they try to put the ball in without using the backboard.
And using the overhand delivery for the lay-ins, I think, is one of the biggest things that's a problem for people.
On run-up layups.
Yeah.
So you want to go in underhand on the run-up layups.
I think that whenever possible that you use the underhand layup. One of the things that is kind of interesting about the layups is that Oftentimes they are ones where you're going really hard to the basket, and let's say you're going 4 or 5 miles per hour, which is really moving, and you go up and you put your hand up, put the ball against the backboard, and you've got the hand behind the ball. What happens is that you add that run-up speed to the back of the ball, and it hits that backboard and ricochets off. When you go up with an underhand layup, you are not putting as much of that run-up speed on the ball, and so it's much softer. In fact, oftentimes you find you have to help it just a little bit to get it to finish. So we really favor underhand lands a lot.
Yeah, go check out that video, and I think it'll help you a lot. Let's see. This one is from Pablo Manning, who says, "How do you counter a defender who is playing you really tight when you have the ball?" That's easy.
Well, that's easy. Yeah. One of the things you need to keep in mind is that the closer a defender plays to you, the less time they have to react to whatever move it is that you're going to use. And so one of the things that we have as a byword for us, and we teach it to everybody, and that is this: they crowd, you go. And really what that means is if they're going to get up into your space and really starting to pressure you, it's time to put the ball on the floor and go by them. And what happens is they have very little time to react to you, and oftentimes what will happen is they will bump you or get a piece of you when you go by, and that creates a foul situation. And so, I'm not going to take the time to relate this particular story, but really it's classic. This one player crowded one of our players, and we had talked about this, and he went, foul number one. Within 15 seconds, we come down the floor, and the same boy's got the same basketball, and the player crowds him once again. He goes again, and the guy's got 2 fouls on him in about 20 seconds because he wanted to pressure and try to create this pressure to make this guy throw the ball away. In reality, we took advantage of what he was doing. So that's important for you to remember. They're close, go.
The worst thing you can do is just sit there and panic.
Oh, yeah, or turn your back on them and try to protect the ball. And my whole feeling on that is nuts. Hey, let's go.
Well, here's the thing that you need to always be considering, whether you have the basketball or you're playing defense, is that you have to be the one that is taking the first step and is in control. If you are sitting back and reacting to whatever they're doing, then that's a good way to just get yourself in a bad position because they will be in control. If you are the one that is forcing the issue and you're pushing past that guy, he's going to have to recover and he's going to have to react to you, and that's going to put them a step behind.
Yeah,
so,
if they're crowding you, and I don't care how quick they are, if they're crowding you and you go aggressively to the basket, you're going to beat them. They may catch you, but you're going to beat them initially because they don't have enough time to react to what you do.
All right, here's one from Robert Stark who says, "How can you get past a block?"
Past a block.
So I think he's saying that he's getting blocked a lot or something
blocked
like that.
Blocked out or
shot block.
How can I get past a block?
The thing is that you have to consider what is a good shot.
That's the key.
If the guy is up on you and it's one where it's going to be a tight contested shot, it's probably not a good shot.
Right.
And we have a video that we talk about that in called "What's a Good Shot?" And if it is a good shot and you're still kind of concerned, or maybe you want to create a good shot, there are things that you can do. You can do something like a shot fake, especially if you're down in the post. If you give the guy a shot fake, get him up in the air, go up, focus on the finish, and put the ball in, and maybe he fouls you, that's a great way to get kind of a good look, even though he's playing you tight.
Right.
You have to do something that's going to get them to react. That is really the key. If you're just sitting there waiting for something to happen, of course, they're going to have an advantage because they're just going to wait it out. And if you go up to shoot, they're going to go up and they're going to contest it. But if you get them to bite on something, whether it's a shot fake or maybe you are on the perimeter, you can give them a jab step or whatever it may be. There's a ton of offensive tools that you can use.
Right.
You just have to have a better shot.
Yeah.
Mark 07701 is asking, how do you properly cross over? We have a video on that. So we would just say, go check that out, how to do a crossover. I mean, when we get into super technical things like that, it's probably best to just go look at the video because we demonstrate it and we show you with our own players. So go check that one out. This one is from Skeeter Plays, who says, "Help, my team sucks and they play no defense. They won't even when I tell them to. Also, they won't pass in." that's a tough situation. I mean, you're not the coach, so you can't really tell people what to do.
Yeah, that's really the truth. And you know, the thing that's really tough here is that they play no defense. Well, one of the key things about playing defense and playing the game of basketball is understanding how to play. A lot of people who are young players, boys or girls, don't know how to defend very well because no one has spent the time to explain to them how to play. And sometimes they play soft defense because they don't know how to play with intensity. And when you learn to play with intensity on defense, your game steps up quite a bit. When it sounds here like that, you're trying to control what other people do. They won't give you the ball when you tell them what to do, and so you gotta waste your breath.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's really not on you to figure that stuff out. I mean, you can address that maybe at practice or something, but you can't change the chemistry and culture of the team unless people are kind of on that side, and maybe that very obvious.
Sure.
But if you're worried about what everybody else is doing, it's probably checking you out of the game. So I would not do that. I would be positive, maybe set a good example, use some leadership skills, and that is always going to be better than yelling at guys or trying to micromanage. Okay, so this one is from Near J, who says, I can handle the ball greatly, but when I get double teamed, I can never seem to split it when no one on my team is open. Okay, well, someone is on your team is open if there is a double team situation happening. One of the things that we say is that if you have that double team that's coming at you, and you can see they're both releasing and coming to you, or the other guy is releasing and come to you, you have to pick one of those guys and go directly at that person and challenge them.
You attack him, yeah.
Yeah, because you can't go after both guys at the same time. But if you single that one person out, they're going to have to react to you, and that other guy is going to have to play catch up as well. So you are the one that's taking control of the situation. If you are just hanging back and waiting for that, of course you're going to be toast, because they're going to set up just how they want. It's going to be 2 against 1, and you're going to be struggling to get the ball off to your teammate.
Well, and it's our opinion that if you try to split a double team, that you're setting yourself up for failure, because number one, they usually pinch that off pretty tight, and you maybe can't get through there with the dribble. Maybe they interrupt the dribble, and so it doesn't work for you. One of the things that is important for you to remember, I think, in bringing the ball up against pressure where you're getting double teamed and whatnot, is keep the ball in the middle of the floor. We always talk to our players about dividing the floor visually into 3 long sections. We got a section on the sideline over here, section of the sideline over here that's probably 10 or 15 feet wide, and everything in the middle is where we really want to do our operating, because the defense wants to push you to a boundary or to the 10-second line so they can trap you there. And so by maybe I'm coming up the floor and I'm in the middle, but I'm kind of shading to the right, and I can see this double team coming, like Casey's saying, then we take the guy who is to the wide side of the floor and we attack him with the dribble. And usually they're a little bit surprised, and they're not able to really control you. They can run with you, but they can't control you. The other guy is canceled out momentarily because he's behind his own player. The other thing I think is really important for you to remember is recognition early. As you come up the floor, you can kind of see what's maybe forming before you get to the midcourt line. And if you see this kind of thing happening, then slow it up and look for somebody maybe to give the pass to early so you can beat that double team. And the other thing is, if you get across the midline, make sure you take and get at least 10 or 15 feet midline, the 10-second line, so that they can't trap you against it. And then you keep your dribble alive. Never give it up by picking it up. A dribble away from them, and that's a retreat dribble, and then go attack them again. But the thing that's important is you allow them to have that leverage on you, because number one, you pick up the ball, and number two, you're kind of threatened by 2 people coming at you once. Take that as a real opportunity and go get one of them. It doesn't make any difference which one. The one to the middle of the floor, or the most middle of the floor, is probably the best one to go after.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of ways to combat that. I mean, even having one of your teammates flash the middle of the floor or whatever.
Well,
But
let me hit one more thing that has to do with teammates
all right,
too.
hurry.
One of the things that teammates often do, they'll see you in a pickle and they're kind of dancing around and trying to create an opening where you can throw them the ball, not realizing that it's really hard for you to throw the ball out of there. And what we tell our players is go to the basketball. If I'm in trouble and I pick the dribble up, the player has to go to the basketball so that we can almost hand it off to him, and then we keep ourselves out of trouble.
And you don't want to pick up the basketball ever if those double team guys are coming at you, and you see that all the time. Where as soon as those two guys are dropping down on you, that especially younger players pick up the ball to pass it, but it's very hard. So you really have to keep the dribble going, select that one person, attack them, and then you're going to find yourself in much better shape. Okay, this one is from Miguel Bertrand, who says how to help defense. That's very difficult to explain without showing a demonstration. But in very simple terms, you have to kind of hedge off of your man that you're guarding and take into account how far the ball is away from you. Make sure you're keeping both in your peripheral vision and come off enough so that you can recover to help your defender or your teammates if they should get beat, but also stay in close enough proximity to your man so that you can get back if the ball is suddenly reversed to them.
Yeah, that's really true. And if you're playing on a team, your coaches usually have a program for where they want you to be when the ball moves from one place to the other.
And I mean, there's that can get much more advanced too as well. Once your teammate is beat, sometimes it doesn't make sense for you to completely commit to jumping in front of that guy and stopping the ball. Sometimes you can fake them out and do like a jab step and make them think you're committing, and they're gonna try to give the ball up to the teammate, and you recover, and maybe you jump in the passing lane or something like that. That's a situation where you kind of have to have experience to know how to make that happen. But that's something that is the next level of that stuff. Okay, this one is from Robert Stark, who says, how do you balance school with basketball when you're top set? Everyone else on the team at the bottom. So I guess that means that you're kind of like the go-to guy or the top guy. All your schoolwork stuff first, and basketball is do that.
Yeah, it's interesting how young players kind of view that situation. Your education always comes first. And the reason for that is that you might put all your eggs in one basket where you are just spending all of your time not on basketball and not putting enough time into either homework or classwork or whatever it is that you're doing there. And oftentimes, if that were to happen and you get to the end of your high school career, let's say, and nobody is interested in you and as a player and you've spent this time on it and you have really messed up your education because of it. Hey, when it comes right down to it, and you talk to any professional player that we could think of, in fact, I was reading something the other day, and I think it was Stephen Curry, and he was just talking about this same issue, and that is that your education always comes first, and you make time for that, and then after that's all taken care of, then you take into the extracurricular, whether it's basketball or baseball or acting or whatever it happens to be.
Well, here's the thing, is that basketball is probably not forever.
Yes.
And you're probably not going to be, the chances of you being a professional that gets played to play basketball is very slim. Doesn't even matter who you are. Even if you're a great player, that doesn't guarantee that you'll do anything. You could get hurt. You might have family emergency. Whatever it is, there's a million ways that if you put all your eggs into the basketball basket, you will find yourself in trouble if you don't have some kind of education under your belt, and at least like a high school education, and if you get that education, people can't take it away from you. They can't say that you didn't go to school. But when it comes to basketball, it doesn't matter if you could be the top recruit of college NCAA Division I basketball, and if you blow out your knee, or maybe you accidentally do something that debilitates you for the rest of your life, you don't get to move on and make money playing basketball. Unless maybe that you become a coach or something like that. But typically coaches are well-educated people that have, they've got their education squared away and everything too. And if you look at these top players, most all of them have educations where even if they came out early, they went back and they got their college degrees and stuff. I mean, you can look at people like Shaquille O'Neal. He left early. He went back and got his degree. People like Stephen Curry. He went and got his degree. I mean, it's one of those things where you have to know that even guy like Shaq, he had a full long career, and he went on into things afterwards, but he was making sure that he was secure in what he could do, and it probably helps him in the rest of his life. So
there's another element of that, Casey, that's really important too, that not enough people know about or think about.
All right, well, let's do it quick here.
Okay, and that is the fact that if you want to get into a college program, you have to meet certain requirements, and I think
we're not going to tell people what the requirements are.
I'm not going to tell them either. But the thing that's important is that you need to know that there are requirements that you have to have fulfilled before you can even be recruited, and it has to do with grade point average. It has to do with the number of and types of classes that you have been enrolled in. And so, if you're thinking that you want to go on and play college basketball, the important thing is to find out what those requirements are, and you can go to Google or some other way of finding the information.
Ask your coach.
And just check out the NCAA grade requirements, and it'll lay it all out for you. And if you don't understand it, take it to your counselor at your high school and tell them that you want to know what these things are that you have to have. Okay?
All right. This one is from... I'm guessing Jay Scarborough, who says, "What drills/workouts should I do to develop my post game?" Well, I mean that's
wide open.
That's a huge thing to tackle. But we will say that the most important part of any skill development or anything basketball related or sports related is just developing the right footwork. And so when it comes to developing your post game, I think that you have to kind of get the initial stuff down. Kind of like the setups and how to use your feet and all that. And we talk about that in our post moves video, where we show you how to seal the guy in the post and then release to catch the pass and do things like that. And then after that, you have to develop a few post moves that are going to be your go-to post moves. And you have to go through and you have to drill each one of those so that it's second nature when you catch the ball, and you have to go and do it using the 3 pillars of practice, where you do it kind of diligently and slow it way down and make sure you're getting the reps in and doing it properly. And then you add in the defense and start doing game speed, game intensity stuff. And then you get the last pillar, which is doing actual game experience. Right. But you have to do that and have those moves and then have counter moves off of those. So if you have a little jump hook or something that you go to the middle of the paint with, you also should have an up and under that looks like that jump hook, so that if the defense is kind of getting on to your jump hook, you can go to the up and under, and they're going to go for that, and then you're going to have an easy layup. So
and there's a couple of other things that are really important too. If you're going to be playing in the post, you're expected by your coach to be a good rebounder. And, good rebounding is not something that you just kind of lean into. You have to learn how to do it and block people out. And one of the things that's a real shortcoming, I think, for coaches in general is that we don't teach players how to block out effectively. And so you need to learn how to block out so that you can get the rebounds. And that's another important skill besides just getting your shots.
Right. Okay, let's see here. There's a lot of questions here. There's a lot of people asking questions about tryouts, like how do I stand out in tryouts, or I'm nervous, what do I do in tryouts? The answer to those questions, I think, will probably be on our live show from last week, where we talked about all those things that you're faced with in tryouts. But also, we've done several videos on Shot Science where we talk about that stuff, and we talk about how to make the team and the things that you can do, especially if you've only got a very small amount of time, where you're not going to be able to develop skills in that amount of time. Right. But you can do a few things that are kind of mental switches that will help you. And people are asking, how do I get seen by the coach and things like that? Those are the type of things that we think are the best. So make sure you check out last week's live show. Also check out our videos that were the longer form ones where we talk about it. And then we also had Casey Hill from the NBA D-League team, the Santa Cruz Warriors, which is the affiliate of the Golden State Warriors. he talks about kind of the things that he looks for and what you should probably be considering when you go to tryouts. So check out those videos, how to make the team, and last week's live show. Let's see here. Pablo Manning's asking, how do you avoid getting the ball stolen from you? I mean, you got to be able to take care of the basketball.
Yeah, that's probably the weakest ball skill that most young players have, is they expose the basketball to the defense in a number of ways. Number one, they get the ball out in front of them too much, and it's easy for the other team to reach in and knock that away. But another thing that happens, and this is pretty common with younger players, they tend to dribble the ball too high and too soft. In other words, the dribble is up around the mid-chest, and it's not very hard and aggressive, and it's easy for an offensive or a defensive player to time that dribble, step in and tap it away and grab it and take off. So it's really important for you to be able to, number one, dribble the ball aggressively so that it goes to the ball floor, ball goes to the ball floor, goes to the ball.
The ball
goes to the floor quickly and comes back to your hand. Another thing that comes out of that, it tends to be stick a little bit better in your hand when it comes up if you've dribbled it aggressively. And so those are things to help you. And use your arm bar to hold people off. The arm bar is just having that arm up in front of your body while you've got the dribble back here. And that keeps them off of it.
Yeah, okay. And go check out our dribbling videos and ball handling videos. I mean, we talk about all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But, it's about taking care of the basketball.
Yep.
Okay, this one is from Desmond King, who's asking, how can I defend somebody faster than me? That's a tough question to answer, but one of the keys is making sure that you're staying in front of the basketball, and that you're using things like the tip hand and the rip hand, which we talk about in our Defense 101 video, and you're also, beating that person to the spot. You've given them enough room for where you can contest their shot if they should take it, but also you can stop their drive if they go after, if they try to go for that route, and you want to make sure that you beat them to the spot if they're attacking. So if they're driving to the right, you jump out and you get into that lane where they're trying to get to, so that you either stop them and they run into you, or you stop them and they have to change direction or something like that, so that they are not just given a full lane to go and you're kind of playing catch up the whole time. You got to beat them to the spot and anticipate. Probably the best thing to do, though, is don't let them get the ball.
Well, that's probably the key point. Another key point is that the more you crowd a quicker player, the more you're putting yourself in harm's way, because they're able to get by you because they're quicker than you are. And so give them a little bit more space. Now, that doesn't mean 6 or 8 feet, but give them a little bit more space so that you can, as Casey was discussing here, keep them between your knees. If you can keep that defensive player or offensive player between your knees defensively, usually you can control where they go.
All right, Tyler Anderson is saying, is working on the basics like shooting, like the shooting drills that is close to the basket better than doing really intense drills? Okay.
I don't know that they really relate that much.
Well, my thought on this is this. You can't do one and not the other. You have to do the 3 pillars of practice. Let's get it out of the way. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but the 3 pillars of practice are this. First pillar is slowed down, diligent, very purposeful practice where you're slowing everything down, and whether it's the footwork or it's dialing in your mechanics, whatever it is. In terms of something like shooting, let's say that is the form shooting drill, where you have a few spots that you're working in close to the basket. You're getting all of your form kind of really tight and dialed in. The next pillar is the game speed, game intensity pillar. And in that, you're taking the things that you learned in the first pillar and you're applying them to game speed, game intensity. So you're amping it up. Maybe you're adding in the defense. You're doing it at the speed and intensity of a game, and you're working on developing that muscle memory so that when you step out on the floor, it's not like you haven't done it before, and it's not like you did it at the speed where you were doing it in the first pillar, because that doesn't directly correlate to stepping out on the court.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be able to do a form shooting drill shot on the court, unless it's like a free throw or something like that. But doing that, having that second pillar in place, then you go and step up to the third pillar, which is actual game experience, and you take all the stuff that you did in the first two pillars and you actually play against people competitively in an actual game setting. So it's pickup games, traveling team games, school games, whatever it is. You just get as much game experience as you can. But those three pillars of practice are important to have, and you have to have a good balance of that stuff too. And you need to be coaching yourself as you go and going back and, you know, polishing things that maybe aren't looking so well. And you have to address all of it. So, you know, you never want to go in and just do these crazy intense drills that are game speed, game intensity, because what if your mechanics are garbage and you're just practicing all that garbage at game speed? Well, it's like you're going to be garbage when you step on the court then.
Yeah, that's right.
So you have to do all of these things, work your way up, and get there progressively.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely true. Yeah.
All right, let's lightning round this because we're getting tons of comments and questions. So let's see here. Lots of questions about tryouts. Guys, go check out those videos we just talked about.
Yeah.
Skeeter Plays is saying, I didn't really explain my situation well. I play for fun at a basketball camp, so there is no coach for any team. All the players on my team look up to me and ask me what to do. They ask me, but won't listen to me. What do I do? Well, if they're asking you but don't listen to you, I mean, the thing is that so many players, especially young players, they want to somehow control or dictate or coach what other people are doing. That's not really your job. I mean, you can only do what you can do. If people are asking you questions, you can only give them your answer and then move on. If you're kind of a leader of the team, you can only do so much. You can't scold people or tell people what to do, especially if you're on the same level of kind of, you know, the hierarchy or respect. You can't, you know, enforce anything. That's kind of what coaches are there to do. And playing playground basketball or pickup basketball, you got to have a tough, thick skin.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of just deal with yourself. And if people are not on the same page as you, you kind of just got to go, well, I'm gonna just do the best that I can do in my situation. And if they're not gonna follow along, that's not my problem.
Yeah, that's very true.
And if you don't like playing with those guys, don't play with those guys.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Don't get stuck in a situation that is not helping you or developing you. D Dennis 1 is asking, what easy post moves would you recommend? Go to our post videos.
Yeah, go to the post videos, and what you're going to find in there is that we really recommend probably a couple of them. One of them is the drop step. All depends on where that defensive player is playing you. If they're playing you on the high side, use the drop step. We also recommend the spin moves, and the spin moves we use when their defense is playing directly behind you.
Yeah, it's one you'll see Pau Gasol doing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Made his career on that.
Drop step, spin move, jump hook to the middle, up and under.
Up and under, yeah.
I mean, there's a ton of stuff to do. Even things like step backs and things like that, but that's a little bit more advanced.
Well, you don't need more than 3 or 4 things that you can do to be effective, as long as you do them well.
Okay, we're not doing lightning round very well, so let's tighten this up. Hoop Dreams is saying, how should you hold the basketball, and can you please go into depth about elbow extension, floppy wrist, and the flop finish?
Oh gosh, that's a whole program right there.
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
question.
Go look at our shooting videos, and we explain it and demonstrate it. But
We do.
you know, in general, when you hold the basketball, you're going to have it so that you're getting this kind of spread on it. We always want to make sure that we have it on the finger pads, and you can do the one finger test to make sure it's not sitting on your palm. It's tough to explain all of that so quickly.
It really is.
And then mention, you know, we want to have a good set point when we go up into our shot, and when we release the ball, we need to have our elbow up above our shooting eye level, so it's up like this. And if it's down, you're going to have a flat shot, so we want to have a nice high extension of the elbow. When it comes to floppy wrist and the flop finish, a lot of people are telling people to flick your wrist and have this very tension-filled release that's going to give the ball lots of spin. And we've talked about a billion times. You don't want to do that, because if you have a ton of spin, you're going to impart that energy into the ball. And when the ball hits the backboard or the rim or whatever, it's going to expend that, and it's going to shoot the ball off with the same amount of energy. Yeah. And you want to have a ball that just dies on the rim. And to do that, you need to have a nice relaxed flop release where it's basically your hand is just flopping over the top of your wrist. And your hand's going to bounce. And if you watch slow motion video of really great shooters, and you can watch it on our channel too, you'll see that the wrist just kind of flops over the top, and it's going to give that nice gentle backspin. When it hits the rim, it's going to be sticky and stay there. But that's the very, very abridged version.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. Lots of questions about tryouts. Go check out those videos, you guys. Pablo Manning is asking, how do you use your dribble to create your own shot? Use the dribble attacks?
Yeah. Go to our videos and check those out, because there's about 5 or 6 different things that you can do that are pretty effective for creating your own shot off the dribble.
Okay, Emil David is asking, can you discuss the benefits and cons of weightlifting on basketball? Super quickly, I could do a whole thing on this, but to me, and I think you're on the same page, is that for young players, the payoff is not nearly as great as spending that time actually working on developing your skills, maybe working on your conditioning, working on your footwork, your lateral abilities, things like that. If you're putting all that time into weightlifting, the payoff is never going to be nearly as good as if you actually have the skills. That's why players like Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis can come to the league and not be very strong, and they can still play NBA basketball, but they can kind of develop that stuff over time as they mature. But young players don't need to spend a bunch of time trying to get bulked out in the gym. Number one, because they don't have trainers that are probably going to be able to help them with it. And if they do, those guys don't always know what they're doing. Number two, you're not really as in touch with your body as you may be when you're a little bit older. And it's hard to really get the proper form and mechanics, so you could hurt yourself. But I think that the biggest thing is that if you want to be a better basketball player, spend the time developing your skills, not trying to bulk yourself out, because the payoff is not as great as you would think.
Right. Some of that weight training too is really kind of hard on your joints when you're young and you still have.
Well, that's mostly because you don't know what you're doing.
Well, that's probably true, but still.
Okay. Let's see. Hoop Dreams is saying, do you have any insight into drills I can do at home to work on my game? Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff that you can do. You can do ball handling drills. You can do self-passing drills. You can do spin shooting drills. Depends on what you have at home, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Tips for shorter players from Zephyr Black. Tips for
same tips would be for bigger players. It doesn't. We talk about this almost every week too. People are concerned about being short, and will I be a good enough basketball player? There are a lot of really outstanding players who are not really very big, and at every level of basketball. And usually those players who are not that big oftentimes are much quicker than the players who are bigger. And so you can actually take advantage of your size sometimes. Does it mean you're not going to be able to dunk? Probably. But dunking is kind of an
emphasize or something.
Yeah, overemphasized skill in basketball anyway. I mean, it's just really not that important.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, is that you are in control of so many things in your life and in basketball, but height is not one of them. Yeah. You have no control over how tall you're going to be. That's just something that is basically predetermined, and your genetic makeup is going to tell you how tall you're going to be.
Yeah.
You can't force yourself to be taller. You can't do anything about being shorter. So look at the advantages of being that shorter person. You're probably going to be quicker. You're probably going to be more agile. You're probably going to be able to have more lateral abilities than those taller guys. You're going to have a lower center of gravity. Those bigger guys are going to think they're going to be able to block you all the time. So use that against them. Give them a shot fake. They're going to go for it. I mean, there's so many things you can use. And you see that all the time with these shorter players. They know how to take advantage of those guys. So just forget about your height. Doesn't matter. Let's see. Jawad Yazdani is asking how to beat someone that's taller and bigger than you. We just explained to you. Use all of your offensive skills. Create space. Use changes in direction and changes of pace and speed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's very easy to beat people that are taller than you. If you're sitting there worried about them being taller than you, that's you've already given them the advantage.
Yeah.
You got see. Here's one thing. As a basketball player or any kind of competitive person, you have to have in your mind that you're going to beat that person. If you're sitting there going, "Oh man, I don't know that guy. He's so much bigger. He's so much faster," or whatever, you've already totally checked yourself out.
Yeah. You've given him the advantage. Yeah.
You need to just get that game face look in your eye and know that you're going to go take that guy, and you're going to use these tools that you've developed in your own time, and you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Absolutely.
so many people are so caught up on all these things that you're worried about things that you can't have control over. You don't have control over how tall that guy is. Killer mentality. Got to be the on-court assassin. Let's see. Alex Salinas keeps asking, what should you expect in basketball game? How could I even begin to get into that?
Yeah, you couldn't. There's 1,000 things that we could touch, but you got to go experience it yourself.
Yeah, I mean, you got to get out there and actually play. Experience is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Let's see. Keith Dymek is asking or saying, people say that if you get your wrist over the rim, you can dunk, and I'm getting it over the rim, and the ball always bounces with the back rim. Sorry for my bad English. It wasn't bad English. Here's the thing. Getting your rim or your wrist over the rim is not the key. Getting the ball over the rim is the key.
Yeah.
And typically people want to know what the key to dunking is. The key to dunking is being able to jump high enough to make it happen.
Yeah.
People say, oh, if I could only palm the ball, if I could only, do this or that. The key is being able to jump high enough to do it. And if you can't jump high enough to do it, you shouldn't do it.
It's going to hit the back rim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to take 2 quick ones and then we're out of here. Manuel Pellessier is saying, how can I get the trust from my coach?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that coaches look for are players who don't make dumb mistakes, players who play with great effort.
When you say the dumb mistake thing,
dumb mistakes are taking poor shots, dribbling the ball and exposing the ball,
trying to play above your abilities.
I think that's probably maybe it lumps it all together. Trying to play above what you're capable of doing. That's really important for coaches. Don't like to see guys step out and turn the ball over. Turnovers in basketball are just probably the biggest no-no that you can think of. They happen, but what you want to do is minimize those as much as possible.
And having good communication with your coach, knowing what their expectations are. Go look at our video, on how to make the team, and all of those qualities that we talk about are things that coaches are going to be looking at and are things that will help you make the team, but will also endear you to the coach. Okay, and I think that'll do it for that one. I want to answer 2 real quick, but this is from D. Dennis 1, who says, do you think power forwards and centers necessarily need to have good ball handling? Yes. Cut out all of the position play stuff, you guys. Basketball players, all around versatile basketball players. You don't choose your position. You just need to drop that because that's the worst thing you can do. Focus on all around skills. Yeah. Okay, last one is from Christian Burrell, who says, how to shoot a fluid shot that has rhythm between your arms and legs. So I think they are 100%, or Christian's 100% talking about connectivity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So when we are going into our shooting, and this is all stuff that you have to develop using something like the form shooting drill and starting out with good foundational elements that we talk about in our videos on shooting. But to do that, you have to connect your feet all the way to the follow through and not have any sticking points, because anytime you have a sticking point or a hitch in your shot, you lose all the power that you generated before.
You might explain what sticking point means.
So a sticking point is like if I extend my legs and then I have a brief hesitation or sticking point in my shot, and then I extend my upper body or extend the ball. A lot of people talk about jumping in the air, reaching the top of their jump, and then shooting, these multi-motion shots. That's the worst thing that you can do. Yeah. You need to connect everything from the floor all the way up and release the ball as you reach the highest point of your shot.
Exactly right.
And you do that through all this repetition and working on polishing your skills. And if you watch somebody like Stephen Curry or even Klay Thompson or any of these really great shooters, that's what they're doing. Steph Curry has connected everything from feet to follow through.
Yep. Both those guys.
So go check out our videos on that stuff. And somebody's asking about other jumping programs. We can't comment on that. Go check out our jumping program because that's what we know and that's what we developed that we think is best for you. Yeah. Okay. I think that's going to do it for us today, you guys. If we didn't get to your questions, it's not because we didn't like you. It's because we just ran out of time. If you want to get in touch with us down during the week, you need to follow us on Twitter. We are at Shot Science. You can follow us on Facebook. We are Shot Science there. We post a ton of stuff every single day, a lot of cool stuff. You can follow us on Google+. Follow us on Instagram, where we post stuff all the time that is cool things that we're doing, maybe some tips, whatever, some cool players that are part of Team Shot Science. And make sure you're following us on Snapchat, because we do like behind the scenes stuff. We talk about tips and some coaching tips and things like that. So follow us on Snapchat. We are Shot Science on all of that stuff. And send us your questions. Be back next week, 1 p.m. Pacific time, for another live show, and we'll see you guys then.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.